So, another great topic came up in a recent email thread I had with a subscriber who reached out to me, let me know they'd been struggling in the business. They've actually been accepted by, I think it was 3 or 4 different publishers, different production music libraries, had quite a few tracks in each of them, but was not seeing any placements. And it had been essentially more than a year or two. So, this subscriber reached out, showed me what they'd been doing, gave me some links to the music that's been distributed through these catalogs, and said, Jesse, what do you think? What am I doing wrong? Why am I not getting placements? So I literally clicked on just the first link that he sent me to the first library that he had some tracks in. And that's all I needed to see. That's all I needed to hear. I didn't even need to go through all the other links that he had sent me. He sent me, I think, 3 or 4 other companies. Because what I saw immediately when I went to the first company that he had tracks with were 2 major mistakes. And these go back to those major mistakes, which are causing most people to get rejected by libraries. But even if you get accepted by libraries, probably not get as many placements as you want. So the 2 mistakes I saw immediately. Number one, he had 4 or 5 different genres that he was producing in. There was some EDM, there was some ethereal mood, pad-based music, there was minimal tension. Almost you name it, this producer was going in all these different directions. So that was the first thing I said. You can't do that anymore. I don't know, maybe at a previous era, maybe when I first got started, there were some people that could probably survive on being a jack of all trades. Those days are done. And for all of you guys watching this right now, those days are done. You cannot come to a library with 5 different styles of music and expect any of those styles to be rock star quality and jumping out into placement opportunities. You got to focus on one, the one that you know you're great at, the one that you can excel at, and hopefully it's a style or a genre that can really thrive with single licensing. Second mistake is the instruments that he was using in his music just were pretty low quality. They sounded very stock, generic, kind of like the basic presets to a MIDI keyboard. Nothing really interesting, dynamic, modern, or compelling coming out of his sonic quality. The music was beautiful. I loved the direction he was going. I think some of it was actually, in its core, very, very licensable. But the tools, the VSTs, the sonic libraries that he was using were not. So I said that probably could be the 2 main issues that I could tell you right off the bat, even though these libraries have accepted you, why you're probably not seeing as much action as other producers or composers on the same catalogs. Now, naturally, his response was, well, thanks for the feedback. I now know what I need to probably work on. But boy, I'm really shocked that the libraries would accept my music. If you're saying that they're not really licensable, like why would a library take on something and not see any use for it? Or why wouldn't a library just say, hey, you know what, these aren't quite ready, you can do better, let's work with you to get these better, before they accepted them on? I feel like, this subscriber sounded like maybe he felt like he was a little duped, that a library would accept something that, my opinion, again, you guys always know it's obviously not an objective reality we're talking about, but my opinion based on my career and my feedback and my interaction with CEOs over the years was that these tracks just weren't there. They just weren't ready for prime time. So why would a library say yes to those kind of tracks? Many of you and myself might fall into that camp. Early in my career, I think a lot of the music that I started off with, the first few albums, probably 5 to 10 albums that I submitted, there were a couple of winners in there, but a lot of it probably not so much. I mean, not probably, definitely wasn't so great. So why would a library take on all these sort of stinkers along with a few of the winners? Well, we're not mind readers. We can't understand exactly why people make the decisions that they do. Obviously, you can ask people directly. That can help get to it. But I can only give you a couple of guesses. But I think more importantly, as we're going to wrap up the video today, I'm going to remind us all where our responsibility lies, regardless of whether or not a library takes our music or doesn't take our music. And also how sometimes the library's interests and a composer or producer's interests do not align perfectly. Many ways we do align. They are our partners, obviously. We all know that. But there are certain circumstances and situations and areas where I'll explain, and this scenario is a perfect example of one, where they're not fully aligned. And so we got to be careful and we got to look out for ourselves. Even though we are partners with the libraries, we do need to also look out for ourselves to make sure that we are not wasting our time or our energy, okay? So why would a library take on music that maybe isn't like the hottest or could potentially be placed? Well, the first more obvious explanation is that maybe it's just a disagreement. Maybe the library owner did think that this composer's tracks were great and high quality and said, no, we're going to take those because we actually do sincerely, authentically believe we can do great stuff with your music. And just that time and place hasn't happened yet. The opportunities haven't popped up, but the library owner genuinely believes that those were great tracks, and they might disagree with my assessment of them and say, no, Jesse, you're totally wrong. These are great tracks. I think we accepted these because obviously we feel we can pitch them. And that might be their point of view. And again, that comes down to just literally a difference of opinion. I think they could be better. Maybe the library owner thinks they're great enough or they're good or whatever. What are you going to do about that? You can't really argue with people with that, with their opinions, right? Another one could be maybe a little bit of laziness, could be some carelessness where you send them 10 tracks, 2 of them are really great, 8 of them are but they're just like, well, those 2 are so great that, maybe those 8 will find a home someday. It's not much extra work to put on the other ones. And yeah, it'd be great to have a whole album of this stuff. So yeah, let's just take the whole album. That might be a mental calculation they're taking on, is like, we know we can really earn some great placements with those 2 great ones. The 8 will be kind of like there just in case, you never know. And we don't want to go through the work of giving them feedback and saying, hey, can you do this and do this and do this? You know what? I think these are good to go as is. Let's put them on the catalog. We don't want to think that library owners are human beings, but they are, right? So I'm not assessing or accusing anybody of obviously doing this, but if human beings are at the throttle, then occasionally corners might be cut, some carelessness or some sort of like, yeah, that's all right, that's good enough. Might be slipping through the cracks here and there. Let's just be honest, that might be happening. Not across the board and definitely not for all libraries, but for some, especially for some libraries that have been more focused on quantity plays, right, where they're trying to get as many different placements into, let's say, reality or sports or something like that, where absolute pristine quality isn't the top of their mind. It's more about being able to serve a wide variety of decent enough quality tracks, right? Let's call it that, licensable tracks to TV and film clients. That might be one reason why. Another one could be just they don't want to have confrontation with the producer or composer. They don't want to get into a disagreement. They just want to kind of grease the wheels and just keep the deal moving forward. So even though they're not a big fan of a couple of tracks on the album of a composer, they're not going to say anything about it because, I don't want to get into a fight with them over it. Let's just accept them. That obviously could be one of the scenarios. I don't know for sure, but these are all just possible scenarios. Nobody's mind reading. Nobody actually knows for sure. Okay. So above and beyond all that though, and just worrying about that, it's kind of like meaningless and it doesn't really matter, because it's not the library's job to make sure that your music is the best quality that it possibly can be, right? It's our job. That's our job to make sure that whatever we supply to them is on par or better than what they're currently supplying their TV and film clients in our particular genre. Not across 10 different genres, not thinking we can take over their entire catalog or even 4 different genres. We find one specific place where we really shine, we bring some high quality stuff, and we're being honest with ourselves and assessing whether or not our stuff is up to par, ready to go, either on par with what they got or better than what they're doing. That's the sort of metric. This is the other tracks, the other music in the catalog are your competition, because clients are going to be deciding, do they want to use the established music or this new album from you that got accepted into the catalog? Which one really serves their needs? That's not necessarily the library's job. The library definitely will have some quality controls. Of course, the higher quality ones will. But at the end of the day, they're not there producing your music or mixing your music most of the time. It's usually going to be on you to do that. So one thing I would say is always hold yourself to the highest possible standard that you can. Always try to get some quality and legitimate and insightful feedback on your music if you possibly can do that. Our pro feedback services have been waiting here, sitting there ready for you since 2022. So 2+ years now. We've got professionals, myself and many others, that are ready to hear your music, ready to give you some helpful feedback and let you know if we feel you can make any improvements, meaningful, significant improvements to your music. Or if we feel, no, this is ready to go, you should start pitching, you should put out a good collection of tracks and go for it, okay? But regardless of that, find a friend, find a colleague, find somebody else who's doing sync licensing, and it's your job. It's our job. It's my job to make sure that my music is as high quality as it can possibly be. And just because the library accepts it, that does not mean I'm immediately having my tracks fly off the shelf into opportunities. It might just mean that I'm now one player in a sea of other tracks that are sitting on a catalog, which is great. You're a player in the business, but you're still kind of on the sidelines, right? Because your music has not been jumping off the shelf yet from its quality, and it hasn't been exciting people. And I would say the first advocate, the first person you need to sell on your music is your library, is the library owner or representative. If you send them something that's so high quality and so great that they get excited, guess who they're going to be pitching your music to? And guess who's going to be top of mind when new opportunities come in for the next couple of months? You and your great new album that you pitch them and you let them have, okay? So let's finish up this video with some kind of maybe some bitter truths, but definitely some truths about how sometimes a library's interests and your interests as a composer and producer do not align, and where you do need to basically look out for yourself above and beyond what the library's interests are, okay? As you guys know, why do we partner with libraries? Well, of course, we are becoming usually 50-50 partners with them, where we create the music, they go shop our music to TV and film clients, and usually we split things 50-50. The sync fee, the royalties, they take the publisher, we take the writer share, et cetera, right? There can be different styles and variations of all this kind of stuff, but basically that's the general idea of why we're partnering, and we call libraries our partners in this business so that we can focus on the music, what we love and what we do best. They can focus on the business, they can focus on the shopping and pitching and all that stuff, right? So if a library, and I've seen some library owners say this even online, to say, hey, you know what would really do well for sync composers is blah 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 world music, right? Or some kind of not necessarily like unheard of style of music, but very niche and very small. And they're basically kind of saying, I want producers and composers to submit that kind of music to me. Now, if you don't produce that kind of music at all, and you think, well, that's my in, I'm going to jump in or whatever. Just remember that a catalog owner, a library owner, their job is to have as many high quality tracks as possible to be able to serve the TV and film clients that they're able to acquire with that catalog, which includes many producers and composers, maybe including you, but you're not the only one. There are many different ones, okay? So if they're going out there and they're trying to shop and pitch their music to various clients, and they say, hey, we think we could do great with this kind of world music or this kind of unique thing or this whatever, and you to take that as a cue to like, all right, I'm going to jump into this unique opportunity. If there's a current and active need for it, then yes, I would say your interest would be aligned, because then you're going to be pitching something directly and then you're going to be getting the placement. But what can happen is a library owner can be accepting music that they don't necessarily have a need for right now, right? They could think, you know what, we don't have any world music, or we don't have any this or any that. We don't have anybody that needs it right now, but boy, my interest as a catalog owner, pretending I'm one of them, is to eventually expand and grow and be able to offer various different genres and styles to new clients and supervisors and ad agencies and everybody else that we basically start to network with in the coming years and months. So it'd be great to have a couple of extra little cracks filled in our catalog, and they start going out there actively asking for producers and composers to fill those holes in their catalog. That's where our interests could be eventually aligned, right? If they finally get some opportunities that look for that. But they might be interested in signing that music this year because they think maybe someday in the future they'll get some placements. And if they don't, it doesn't really hurt them that much, right? It's not a big investment for them. It's not a big investment in time and energy or effort or money. But, you know, they got that there. But for you, if you're constantly chasing that kind of opportunity or trying to always fill a gap in a catalog that maybe doesn't have any need for that music with their clients right now, that costs you a lot more, right? Because that's wasted time. That could be the first couple of years of your career, basically seeing, maybe like this producer was seeing, throwing a bunch of music into a catalog and not seeing any placements at all. So even though a library, I guess this is the bottom line, I'm getting a little convoluted with my video here, but the bottom line is that even though a library owner is accepting music from you, that does not mean that your music is relevant immediately for their TV and film clients. And it might not mean that your music is ready to be pitched to them, or that it's on par or as licensable as it possibly can be, okay? So I kind of want to, basically we want to be our own quality control. Just because the library accepts you does not mean that your work is done and that you don't have to continue improving. That's really what you should take away from this video. You should always be improving. You should always be listening. And if you feel like you're just the top dog in your catalog, great. Go listen to better catalogs, right? Go get as good or better than the best of other catalogs that basically are outshining you and doing some really impressive things as well. If you're not learning, you're getting stagnant. That's what I learned in my career. The seasons of my career and the months where I just wasn't being curious and looking and figuring out, trying new things out, trying new plugins, listening to new music, all that kind of stuff. When I wasn't growing, I was shrinking. I was stagnating. I was getting bored. I was creating the cover versions of my previously created tracks and going, I think I wrote this riff like 4 times already, right? That's what happens when we don't grow, we don't get curious, and we don't challenge ourselves. So that's the bottom line of this message of this video is, do your best. Quality control is up to you. It's up to the library. And make sure, again, when you get accepted by a library or as you're researching them, have conversations to say, what are you looking for right now? What are your clients asking for right now? What can I do to make the best of my time and the best of my creativity to serve your current needs right now? I don't want to make music that you think, yeah, one day in 5 years, we'll get some maybe opportunities for it. We don't want to be in the business of maybe in 5 years. That doesn't do us any good. We need stuff happening right now, this quarter, this year. So it's on you. You've got to ask the library. You've got to start initiating these questions. They don't always come to you and say, hey, these are our clients. This is what they're looking for. Can you help us out? They might have all that information literally sitting there on their desk, and had you just asked, they might have just freely given it to you, and then you would have known how to steer your creativity and your music into something that's much more licensable. Okay, I think I got my message across there. It's not my clearest video. I do apologize for that. Let me know what you think below. Please leave a comment. Hopefully you found this interesting.